Hi, this is Phyllis. Welcome back again to my channel. I know you may be confused, but this is our blank canvas. We're going to be making our ornament for the 2023 season. Stay tuned for my materials list. I'm going to let you know exactly what you need, but we're not going to be able to see the finished product until we're almost done. Thank you to all of my new subscribers and keep watching. Thank you. The materials for today's project are SuperDuo Beads. I'm using SuperDuo Beads in the color is Transparent Amethyst Luster. I'm using some 3mm Bicone crystals. I'm using two different colors. Maybe. I'm also using these Montee beads, and they are an SS12, pretty tiny for a Montee bead. For Montee crystal, I mean. If you don't have any of these, use your 3mm bicones in the place of where I'm going to put the Montees, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm using, excuse me, two colors of size 11 seed beads. I'm using a cranberry gold Mayuki. I'm also using a palladium plated Mayuki. I'm using 15-0 seed beads, and these are also my palladium plated 15-0s in the Mayuki. I'm going to use some charms. I got these charms at, I believe, Burlington, and you could use any type of charm you want, but because we're making an ornament, I wanted to use these, and they come in the package of 6, and I paid $4 for them, and they're glass. They're called Cheers Wine Club wine charms, so that's what I'm using. If you don't have any of these charms, you can use some type of drop. And these drops are 4x6mm in the Crystal Labrador color. That's if you don't have any charms, you can use these. Now, you know, just as an alternative. Of course, I need something to thread with, and I'm going to use my 6-pound fire line for making my components. And I also, yeah, I'm just going to make this for use this beading thread. I need a needle, and I'm using a size 11 needle. I'm using some scissors. I have my bead board. I also have my ornament. This ornament I purchased at Michael's. Now, there are no measurements on this, but I measured it. So from here to the bottom is 3 inches. From here to the bottom is 3 inches, and I'm not quite sure about maybe 5 inches around. But it's not as large as the last ornament that I made. The last ornament I made was ridiculous. It was like 5 inches in length and like 10 inches around. That was ridiculous, and it I learned from that because I don't think anybody took the time to make that, and so I apologize. But I was new, so here we are. I'm a little bit better. I have a couple years under my belt, and maybe you know, these materials that I choose are better. So what we're gonna do is, and I think I said everything right, You may need a plier, so I've got a chain nose plier here, and that's for just taking the metal off of my charms, and possibly for flattening the end of the plier line so that I can string my thread through it, and possibly an ornament holder. That's up to you. I've got a multiple ornament holder, and this is a singular one that I'm going to use just to display, just to take the picture, but it's going to end up on my tree, that is for sure. Now these charms are glass, but they're not heavy. If you're going to do some charms, try to get something that's not heavy so it won't weigh down the twigs of your tree. I'm going to put this on my artificial tree. I won't put it on the live tree, but I put this on the artificial tree, and it should not weigh down the branch that I put it on. So if you like the material, the project that I showed you, the ornament that I showed you, my blinged and charmed ornament for 2023, please stay tuned, gather your materials, bring your patience, and we will start by making some components. To begin, you just need a comfortable length of thread, a yard or less, because you can make several of these tiny components with whatever length you choose. Just be comfortable with it, okay? We're going to begin by stringing on a SuperDuo and an 11-0 seed bead 4 times. A SuperDuo and an 11-0. A SuperDuo and an 11-0. You're not going to need any more SuperDuos, and you may not need any more 11-0s for this component. But what I'm going to do is pull these down, and I'm going to run my needle back through all of these beads, and once I do that, I'm going to tie a knot. And I did this before by just going through all of the beads one time and tying the knot, but it was so flimsy that I decided that with all of these little components, I'm going to run the thread through all of the beads a second time before I tie a knot. And once I have done that, you see I have them here, I'm just going to tie a knot. I'm going to pass my end tail through the loop a couple of times, pull it down, make sure that there's no slack here, and I'm going to do that again. Make my loop, pass my tail through the loop twice, and pull my thread, and this should make a sturdy base, a very sturdy base. And at this time, I'm going to continue to advance my needle. I'm going to go through the SuperDuo because the last bead that I strung on was an 11-0. So I'm going to go this way through a couple of beads. Careful not to get these all caught up. And we're going to reposition ourselves right here in this SuperDuo. We won't be using the open holes of the SuperDuos in this step. We're only going to use the first hole that I strung through. Now, once we get here, we want to be positioned outside of this SuperDuo bead. We're going to string on our Montee bead. Right now I'm going to use a size 15-0 seed bead. I'm going to do a 15-0 seed bead, a Montee crystal, and a 15-0 seed bead. And I'm going to come down to the corresponding SuperDuo, cross my thread over, this way and run my needle into this SuperDuo here from left to right. And when you pull the thread, you're gonna have to do a rearrangement of your Montee just to make sure that the crystal part is sitting up. But this is what you should have. That is what you should have. I'm going to pull it tightly now so that it will sit properly, but I do have to center it. And what do I mean by that? Well, I have to continue to pass my needle through the other holes of the Montee bead. I'm going to string on a size 15-0 seed bead, and I'm going to pass my needle into this open hole of the Montee bead right here and pull my thread. Excuse my fingers in the middle of your mess, in the middle of the component. And then once I get here, I'm going to string on a size 15-0 seed bead. And remember, when I started, I was right here. My needle was exiting this way, right there on the right side. What I'm going to do now is with this 15-0 seed bead, I'm going to go right back into that SuperDuo so that the thread is exiting in the original direction, left to right. All right. And once you do this, make sure you pull tightly, real tightly down on all of these beads so that it will center. Now, for those of you who do not have Montee beads, you're using a 3mm crystal. What I'm doing now is I'm flipping this over so that I can show you that you don't need a Montee bead, that you can use your 3mm crystal. But my thread is exiting, so you're going to go through the regular steps. You're going to add your 4 SuperDuos and your seed beads, and once you get all of those done, added, and you reinforce them and tie your knots, this is where you should be. If you would like to be exiting, going in the same direction, you could. The only reason I'm not going that way is because I flipped it over to show you this. But if it's the same thing, once you get here, after you reposition, you want your thread exiting the bottom hole of a SuperDuo. You're going to string on a 15-0 seed bead, a 3mm bicone, and a 15-0 seed bead. My thread is exiting this SuperDuo, and the thread is exiting on the left. I'm going to cross my thread over, and I'm going to pass my needle into the corresponding seed SuperDuo on the other side, and I'm going to pass the needle from right to left, and I'm going to pull the thread. Let me get my fingers out of the way. When I pull down, just make sure that your crystal is on top. See that? Maybe I should have used a different color crystal. I'm not sure, but that's what we're working with right now. And when you do that, just make sure that it's sitting there. I want you to be able to see this. All right, so I'm going to back out of this because I want you to be able to see what I am doing. I don't want to hide anything from you, so I'm going to remove my needle from the thread. I'm going to pull down, pull these beads off, and I'm going to start all over again with a different color of 3mm bicone. Just let me get the 3mm out so I can show you. I'll be right back. So I removed my chrome color 3mm bicone. You can't even see it anymore. And I got, just for recording purposes, so I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So let me go back this way. I'm going to string on, I already have my 15-0 seed bead on. I'm going to string on my aurum colored 3mm bicone and another 15-0 seed bead. So I've got my 15-0, my bicone, and 15-0. And I believe that you will be able to see a lot better, see the color of what I'm doing here. All right, so my working thread is exiting the left side here, and I'm going to move my thread over this way, and I'm going to pass my needle into the corresponding opposite SuperDuo in the hole that I'm already using. Remember, I'm not using the outside open holes for this component. I'm just passing my needle from right to left into that. Oh boy, I'm just fiddly right now. I've passed my needle right to left into that SuperDuo down there at the bottom, and this is what I have. So, and this bicone is so much easier to see. Now, once here, I'm going to string on a 15-0 seed bead. I'm going to look at where my thread is exiting. See, my thread is exiting here at the SuperDuo. I'm going to just make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. I have the 15-0 on. I'm going to pass my needle into the 3mm bicone right there and hold that bicone down and pull my thread. And the reason I held it down is because I'm already fiddly. I don't want this to get I don't want to drop it. I don't want to do any of those things. But I'm right here. I'm right back up here at the top. And right now, if you can see what I need to do, I've got my little 15-0s on either side of my bicone, except I'm missing one on this side. So I need to string on a 15-0 seed bead, and I'm going to go right back where I started. When I started here, my needle was exiting the left side, so I'm going to pass my needle back through this SuperDuo from right to left, and that will complete the embellishment of my tiny little component. Now, whether you are using a 3mm bicone to do this or a Montee bead, the steps are the same. We go in with the SuperDuos and the 11-0s, and we make the little unit there, and then we go back around and reinforce. And then when we add our crystal, we do a 15-0 to crystal and a 15-0, and then pull through. It's the same thing whether you're using a Montee bead like this one or if you're using a 3mm bicone. It is the same thing, and you don't need a Montee bead. Just use your 3mm, and you can see how nice that is. And if you don't have 3mm, you can use 8-0 seed beads. So those are just the a little information for you, but that is our crystal. And what you do is you go back into your bottom here, that base that you made, and you just reinforce that base a couple of times and tie your threads together or have some half hitch knots and cut off the thread, and that is your little component. And you're going to need several of these. I think I'm using 12. I think I'm going to be using 12. So I'm going to go off and make my 12 little components, and I'm going to make this the end of this video. And when I am done, I'm going to make the next part of the video. So thank you for hanging out with me and making this little component, but this is the first step into making our Christmas 2023 ornament on my channel. See you for part 2.